Welcome to Monk's Temple. There is a question that arrives in the human heart without warning. It comes in the second hour of an unsleeping night. It comes when you watch your grandmother's hands folding a bedsheet, hands that have folded 10,000 bedsheets before this one. The question asks, is this my first time here? You look at your hands. You realize you do not have an answer. This is not a question the modern world is equipped to answer. We have search engines for everything else. But when the question comes, is this my first time, the search bar offers nothing. There is no algorithm for the memory of something you never learned. The Buddha sat under a tree 25 centuries ago, not searching for God, not searching for salvation, but searching for the origin of this exact question. He had been a prince. He had been a prisoner of luxury. He had escaped his golden cage, wandered as a beggar, nearly starved himself to death in pursuit of answers. On the night the morning star rose, he finally saw clearly. Not with his eyes. With something older than his eyes. He saw, stretching behind him like a road vanishing into mist, the line of his own footsteps. He had been here before. Not under this tree. Not in this body. But he had sat at the edge of awakening countless times. On that night he did not become someone new. He finally recognized who he had always been. The Buddha did not teach that you have a soul that travels from body to body like a commuter changing trains. This is a common misunderstanding. He taught that your consciousness is a continuum, not a thing. It is not a suitcase you carry. It is a river you are. Stand on the bank of a river. You say, this is the Ganges. But the water at your feet is not the water that was here yesterday. The fish are not the same fish. And yet you call it the Ganges. There is no fixed Ganges. There is only Ganges ing, the continuous process of flowing, carving, nourishing, and beginning again. You are Ganges ing. You are not a static self, you are a process of being. This process did not begin at your birth. It began nowhere, because it has always been underway. The psychological implications are staggering. If you are a process rather than a product, your problems are not recent malfunctions. They are ancient habits. Your tendency to abandon relationships the moment they require effort, this is a pattern you have installed across countless previous installations. Your compulsive need to prove yourself worthy of love, this is a feature you have been coding since before you had language. Western psychology calls this core beliefs. A child abandoned at 5 develops a fear of abandonment that persists into adulthood. But Buddhism extends the timeline. What if the child was abandoned at 5 because the adult was already expecting to be abandoned? What if the fear was already ancient, already weathered smooth by centuries of repetition? This is not blame. This is liberation disguised as a difficult question. Because if a pattern is ancient, you have been trying to address it for a very long time. That means you have resources. You have practice. You have, buried somewhere in the sediment of your consciousness, the memory of having overcome this pattern before. In 19th century Kyoto, there lived a sword polisher named Eiji. He did not make swords, he restored them. Samurai families would bring him blades their ancestors had worn in battle. Eiji would spend months coaxing luster from metal dimmed over generations. Eiji had a son named Kenji. Kenji was expected to inherit the workshop, but Kenji showed no interest in swords. He refused to touch the whetstones. When his father tried to teach him, Kenji became agitated, a quiet anger that confused them both. At 17, Kenji ran away to Tokyo. He cut his hair. He bought Western clothes. He took a job in a telegraph office, sending Morse code across wires that stretched across the country. His father continued alone. 20 years passed. Eiji grew old. His hands began to tremble. He could no longer trust himself with fine work. The family workshop, which had operated for 147 years, closed its doors. Kenji did not attend the closing. He did not attend his father's funeral. But 6 months after his father's death, Kenji appeared at the workshop door. He was 40 years old now, a supervisor at the telegraph office. He did not speak. He walked past the empty workbenches, past the racks of unfinished blades, past the whetstones still arranged in order of grit. He sat down on the floor in the exact spot where his father had sat for 50 years, and he wept. A young monk from the nearby temple found him there. Kenji did not look up. He said, "I have spent my whole life running away from swords. And all my life I have been sending Morse code. Click. 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 The rhythm of a hammer on an anvil. The rhythm of a whetstone against steel. I thought I was escaping. I was just translating." The monk sat beside him. "Your father believed you would return. He was wrong. I didn't return. I never left." Kenji reopened the workshop. He was not as skilled as his father, not at first. His hands were soft from years of typing. But he learned. And in the learning, he understood that his aversion to swords had not been aversion at all. It had been reverence. He had stayed away because he was afraid he would never be worthy. He had watched his father transform rust into reflection and thought, "I am not that man." But he was that man. Not the same man. The continuation of that man. Kenji worked until he was 83. He trained his daughter, who trained her son. The workshop is still operating today. They no longer polish samurai swords. They polish surgical instruments now, scalpels so sharp they can part a single human hair. The same steel. The same stones. The same reverence. Just a different purpose. If you have ever run away from something you were meant to continue, if you have ever felt the terror of inheriting a gift you did not ask for, if you have ever spent decades translating your destiny into something safer, you are not lost. You are not starting over. You are simply finding your way back to the workshop. This is the first door of remembrance, recognizing that your resistances are often just your devotions, wearing a mask. If this story resonated with you, you are exactly where you need to be. Monk's Temple exists for people who suspect they are not beginning their journey but continuing it. If you want to walk this path with others who are also finding their way back to their own workshops, please subscribe. Not as a transaction. As a recognition. Press the button. Continue. There is a second question that follows the first. The first question asks, "Is this my first time here?" The second question asks, "If I have been here before, where did I put the map?" You have felt this. Everyone has felt this. You stand at a crossroads in your life. Should you take the job, leave the marriage, move to the city, return home, and you realize you have no idea which way to turn. But it is not ignorance you feel. It is forgetting. You did not lose the map. You simply put it down somewhere, in another pair of hands, and those hands are no longer attached to your wrists. The Buddhist teaching on memory does not require you to believe that you can recite the names of your children from 3 centuries ago. It asks you to consider something far more practical, that your body remembers what your mind has forgotten. Your hands remember. Your spine remembers. Your stomach remembers. The tension between your shoulder blades, that is not stress from this morning's email. That is an ancient weight, carried so long you no longer notice you are carrying it. The Buddha called this sankhara, usually translated as mental formations, but more accurately understood as habit energy. It is the momentum of repeated action. Each time you react to fear with anger, you deepen the groove. Each time you respond to pain with kindness, you carve a new channel. You are not just living your life. You are etching the riverbed that your future selves will flow through. This is not punishment. This is not a cosmic ledger keeping score of your sins. It is simpler and more merciful than that. It is practice. You are practicing, every moment of every day, the skills you will need in the next life. The question is only whether you are practicing deliberately or by accident. In the coastal city of Marseille, in the year 1928, a girl named Simone was born to a fisherman and his wife. The family lived in 2 rooms above a smokehouse. The smell of curing fish permeated everything, their clothes, their bed sheets, their skin. Simone's father went out on his boat at 3 o'clock every morning and returned at sunset, his hands raw from hauling nets, his eyes red from salt spray. Simone hated the sea. She did not hate it mildly. She hated it with a purity of feeling that frightened her mother. She refused to learn to swim. She refused to eat fish. She refused to walk along the harbor wall where the other children played. When her father tried to take her out on his boat, she screamed so violently that the neighbors came running. Her father, a gentle man, never asked again. Simone grew up. She moved to Paris. She became a librarian. She spent 40 years surrounded by paper and silence, 200 miles from the nearest coast. She told herself she had escaped the sea. She told herself she had left it behind. But in her dreams, she was drowning. Not the violent, thrashing drowning of a sailor thrown overboard. A different drowning. A slow, patient sinking. Her arms spread wide. Her hair floating upward like kelp. The light retreating, green to blue to black. And in the dream, she was not afraid. She was waiting. Simone retired at 62. Her husband had died. Her children were grown. She had no reason to stay in Paris and no reason to leave. She sat in her apartment, surrounded by books, and watched the rain streak the windows. One morning, without planning it, she walked to the train station and bought a ticket to Marseille. She had not returned in 40 years. She expected the city to feel foreign. But when she stepped off the train and inhaled the air, fish, salt, diesel, tar, her knees buckled. A man caught her elbow. "Madam, are you ill?" "No," she said. "I am home." She walked to the old neighborhood. The smokehouse was gone, replaced by a hotel. Her family's building had been renovated. But the harbor wall was still there, exactly as she remembered it. She walked to the edge and looked down at the water slapping against the stone. She was 83 years old. She had never learned to swim. And yet, looking at the water, she understood something for the first time. Her fear had never been fear of drowning. Her fear had been fear of surviving. In her dreams, she sank willingly because she had been trying, for centuries, to complete a journey she had abandoned midway. 3 months later, Simone signed up for swimming lessons at the municipal pool. The instructor, a young woman young enough to be her granddaughter, was patient. Simone could not float. Her body refused to relax. She gasped and flailed and swallowed chlorinated water. But she kept returning. On the last day of the session, the instructor asked her to simply lie back, hold the edge of the pool, and let her legs rise. Simone hesitated. Then she released her grip on the wall. She floated. It lasted only 4 seconds. Then her legs sank and she scrambled for the edge, coughing and laughing. 4 seconds. But in those 4 seconds, lying on the surface of the water like a leaf, she felt something release in her chest. Not a memory. Not a vision. Just the quiet certainty that she had done this before, in a different body, under a different sun, and that the water had been waiting for her to remember. Simone died at 91. Her daughter found a notebook beside her bed. On the last page, in shaky handwriting, was a single sentence: "I am not afraid of the water. I am the water." This is the second door of remembrance, recognizing that your deepest fears are often your deepest knowings, wearing a mask of terror so you will not recognize them as memories. The body does not forget. The body waits. The body is patient. You do not need to travel to Marseille. You do not need to enroll in swimming lessons. You only need to ask yourself, what have I been running from that is actually running toward me? The answer will not arrive as a voice from the clouds. It will arrive as a sensation in your chest. It will arrive as a dream you cannot shake. It will arrive as the sudden realization that the thing you fear most is not your enemy. It is your unfinished business. And it has been waiting for you, across all these years, across all these lifetimes, for you to turn around and face it. There is a third question, more unsettling than the first two. The first asked if you have been here before. The second asked where you put the map. The third asks, if I have lived many lives, how many times have I broken the same promise? This is the question that made the Buddha hesitate before teaching. He looked at the world and saw beings caught in cycles of self-sabotage so ancient, so deeply grooved, that they believed the grooves were their natural shape. A fish does not know it is wet. A being caught in samsara does not know it is trapped. It only knows that moving forward feels impossible and moving backward feels like death. But the Buddha also saw something else. He saw that the very same momentum that traps you can free you. A river flowing through a canyon cannot escape its banks. But a river that has carved the canyon for millions of years has also learned every curve, every eddy, every submerged stone. It knows the canyon better than the canyon knows itself. And when the monsoon comes, when the water rises above the banks, the river does not escape by fighting the stone. It escapes by remembering that it was always more than its container. You are more than your container. Your patterns are not your identity. They are simply the shape your river has carved over time. And you can learn to flow differently. In the high desert of New Mexico, in a small town called Truchas, there lived a man named Benito. He was a gardener, or rather, he tried to be a gardener. He planted tomatoes every spring. He watered them. He weeded them. He talked to them. And every summer, his tomatoes produced exactly 3 small, hard, flavorless fruits before withering in the heat. His neighbors grew chilies. His neighbors grew squash. His neighbors had lush gardens that spilled over their fences. Benito grew dust. He tried everything. He amended the soil. He installed drip irrigation. He built a shade structure. He prayed to San Isidro, the patron saint of farmers. His tomatoes continued their annual act of quiet, determined failure. Benito was not a man given to self-pity. He was 73 years old, a retired schoolteacher, a widower. He had outlived his wife, outlived his younger brother, outlived most of his friends. He expected very little from life except the slow accumulation of small disappointments. The tomatoes were simply one more item on the list. But one afternoon, sitting in his dusty garden, watching his dusty tomato plant struggle in the dusty wind, Benito began to cry. He did not cry from sadness. He cried from exhaustion. He was tired of trying to force life out of ground that did not want to give it. That night, he dreamed of a valley. Not the high desert of New Mexico. A green valley, irrigated by stone channels, terraced into hillsides so steep they seemed to defy gravity. He saw himself, not himself, but himself in different clothes, different hands, kneeling in soil that was black and wet. He was not planting tomatoes. He was repairing a channel wall, fitting stones together without mortar, his fingers moving with a certainty he had never possessed in waking life. He woke with the sensation of cool mud between his fingers. Benito had never worked with stone. He was a gardener, or at least a failed gardener. But that morning, he walked out into his yard and looked at the bare earth with new eyes. He saw, not a place to plant, but a place to channel. He spent the next 6 months building a dry-stack stone wall along the edge of his property. He had no training. He made mistakes. Walls collapsed. Stones slipped. His neighbors thought he had finally lost his mind. But his fingers remembered what his mind had forgotten. Each stone found its place, not through calculation, but through recognition. When the wall was finished, Benito did not plant tomatoes. He planted beans, the same drought-resistant variety his neighbors had been growing for generations. The beans grew. Not abundantly, not miraculously, but adequately. He harvested enough for himself and enough to share. He died 3 years later, sitting on a bench he had built into the wall, watching the sun set behind the mountains. His daughter found him there, his hands resting on the stones, his face peaceful. She kept the wall. She did not know why her father, a gardener who could not garden, had spent his final years building something that grew nothing. But she understood, in the way children understand things about their parents that cannot be explained, that the wall was not for holding back earth. It was for holding together something inside him that had been crumbling for a very long time. This is the third door of remembrance, recognizing that your failures are not evidence of incompetence. They are evidence of misalignment. Benito spent decades trying to grow things in soil that was never meant to feed him. His talent was not in planting. His talent was in directing. He spent 73 years as a frustrated gardener only to discover he was a patient stoneworker. What have you been trying to force? What ground have you been tilling that was never meant to receive seed? Your inability to succeed in that particular field is not a judgment on your worth. It is a compass needle, quivering away from true north, telling you where you are not meant to go. The stone does not envy the seed. The seed does not envy the stone. Each has its purpose, its season, its place in the geometry of becoming. You have laid stones before. You have carved channels before. You have built walls that outlasted your own bones. The memory of that work is not lost. It is simply waiting for you to set down the trowel and pick up the chisel. Do not ask why your garden will not grow. Ask instead, what am I meant to build? The answer is already in your hands. You have only to open them. There is a fourth question, and it is the one we avoid most carefully. The first asked if you have been here before. The second asked where you put the map. The third asked how many times you have broken the same promise. The fourth asks, who have I harmed, and are they still waiting for my apology? This question lives in the body like undigested food. You feel it as a vague unease when you encounter certain kinds of people, the elderly woman on the bus, the quiet man at the office, the child with the serious eyes. You feel it as a sudden need to be elsewhere when a particular name comes up in conversation. You feel it as a blush of shame for which you cannot locate the cause. The Buddha taught that karma is not a system of punishment. It is a system of return. What you send out circles back, not because a judge in the sky records your debts, but because the universe is continuous with itself. You cannot throw a stone into a pond and expect the ripples to stop at the shoreline. You cannot throw a stone into your own heart and expect the ripples to stop at your ribs. But the Buddha also taught something more hopeful. He taught that the return of your past actions is not a life sentence. It is an invitation. Every person who stirs inexplicable guilt in you, every situation that triggers unearned shame, is an opportunity to complete a transaction you left unfinished. The apology you never gave. The forgiveness you never received. The acknowledgement you never offered. These are not ghosts haunting you. They are guests, waiting at your door, hoping that this time you will answer. In the city of Krakow, in the year 1939, a young woman named Helena worked in a bakery. She was 19 years old, the eldest daughter of a widowed schoolteacher. She woke at 3 o'clock every morning to knead dough, and by 7 o'clock she had already baked 400 loaves of rye bread. Helena was in love with a boy named Merrick. Merrick was 22, a law student, the son of a prosperous tailor. His family did not approve of a girl who smelled of yeast and flour. Helena's mother did not approve of a boy who had never worked with his hands. But Helena and Merrick met in secret, in the alley behind the bakery, stealing moments between the morning rush and the afternoon cleaning. In September of that year, the Germans invaded. Marek's family fled east. Helena never learned what became of them. She assumed he had survived, married a suitable girl, become a lawyer in London or New York. She assumed this because the alternative was too heavy to carry. Helena lived. She married a mechanic. She had 3 children. She survived the occupation, the Soviet years, the long gray decades of shortages and suspicion. She never spoke of Merrick. She folded that chapter of her life so tightly that even she could not find its creases. But when Helena was 92 years old, living alone in a small apartment, she received a letter. The return address was a nursing home in Chicago. The handwriting was shaky, the ink smudged. It said, "I have looked for you in every city I have ever visited. I have looked for you in the faces of every woman I have ever loved. I never stopped looking. I never stopped. Helena read the letter 3 times. Then she placed it in her lap and looked out the window at the gray Krakow sky. She did not write back. She was 92 years old. Her hands trembled too badly to hold a pen. Her English, never fluent, had long since crumbled into fragments. She told herself it was too late. Too many years. Too much distance. Too many lives lived apart. But that night, Helena dreamed of the alley behind the bakery. She dreamed of the smell of yeast and the feel of a boy's hand in hers. She woke at 3 o'clock in the morning, the same hour she had woken for 50 years of baking, and she knew what she had to do. She dictated a letter to her granddaughter. It said, "I am still here. I am still in the alley. I never left." The granddaughter mailed it. 2 weeks later, the phone rang. It was Marek's daughter, calling from Chicago. Her father had died the day before Helena's letter arrived. He had been holding it when he passed, unable to open it, unable to read it, but unwilling to let it go. Helena did not cry. She was 92 years old. She had outlived her husband, outlived most of her friends, outlived the bakery, outlived the alley. But she had not outlived the question. She said to Marek's daughter, "I loved him for 83 years. I never stopped. I never stopped." This is the fourth door of remembrance, recognizing that the people we have loved do not disappear when we stop looking at them. They continue. They age. They wait. They write letters from nursing homes in Chicago, hoping the address is still valid. And sometimes, if we are very lucky, we arrive before the letter does. The Buddha taught that our connections to other beings are not temporary arrangements. They are the very fabric of our consciousness. Every person you have ever loved, every person you have ever harmed, every person you have passed on the street without noticing, these are not separate from you. They are you, in other bodies, learning the same lessons, stumbling toward the same light. You do not need to find everyone you have ever wronged in this lifetime. You do not need to memorize the names of your enemies from 10 centuries ago. You only need to recognize that the person standing before you now, the one who irritates you without cause, the one who stirs ancient guilt in your chest, is not a stranger. They are a letter you never answered, arriving at last at the correct address. It is not too late. It is never too late. The alley is still there. The bakery is gone, but the alley remains. And someone is waiting in it, hoping that this time, you will turn down the correct street. There is a fourth question, and it is the one we avoid most carefully. The first asked if you have been here before. The second asked where you put the map. The third asked how many times you have broken the same promise. The fourth asks, who have I harmed, and are they still waiting for my apology? This question lives in the body like undigested food. You feel it as a vague unease when you encounter certain kinds of people, the elderly woman on the bus, the quiet man at the office, the child with the serious eyes. You feel it as a sudden need to be elsewhere when a particular name comes up in conversation. You feel it as a blush of shame for which you cannot locate the cause. The Buddha taught that karma is not a system of punishment. It is a system of return. What you send out circles back, not because a judge in the sky records your debts, but because the universe is continuous with itself. You cannot throw a stone into a pond and expect the ripples to stop at the shoreline. You cannot throw a stone into your own heart and expect the ripples to stop at your ribs. But the Buddha also taught something more hopeful. He taught that the return of your past actions is not a life sentence. It is an invitation. Every person who stirs inexplicable guilt in you, every situation that triggers unearned shame, is an opportunity to complete a transaction you left unfinished. The apology you never gave. The forgiveness you never received. The acknowledgement you never offered. These are not ghosts haunting you. They are guests, waiting at your door, hoping that this time you will answer. In the city of Krakow, in the year 1939, a young woman named Helena worked in a bakery. She was 19 years old, the eldest daughter of a widowed schoolteacher. She woke at 3 o'clock every morning to knead dough, and by 7 o'clock she had already baked 400 loaves of rye bread. Helena was in love with a boy named Marek. Marek was 22, a law student, the son of a prosperous tailor. His family did not approve of a girl who smelled of yeast and flour. Helena's mother did not approve of a boy who had never worked with his hands. But Helena and Marek met in secret, in the alley behind the bakery, stealing moments between the morning rush and the afternoon cleaning. In September of that year, the Germans invaded. Marek's family fled east. Helena never learned what became of them. She assumed he had survived, married a suitable girl, become a lawyer in London or New York. She assumed this because the alternative was too heavy to carry. Helena lived. She married a mechanic. She had 3 children. She survived the occupation, the Soviet years, the long gray decades of shortages and suspicion. She never spoke of Marek. She folded that chapter of her life so tightly that even she could not find its creases. But when Helena was 92 years old, living alone in a small apartment, she received a letter. The return address was a nursing home in Chicago. The handwriting was shaky, the ink smudged. It said, "I have looked for you in every city I have ever visited. I have looked for you in the faces of every woman I have ever loved. I never stopped looking. I never stopped." Helena read the letter 3 times. Then she placed it in her lap and looked out the window at the gray Krakow sky. She did not write back. She was 92 years old. Her hands trembled too badly to hold a pen. Her English, never fluent, had long since crumbled into fragments. She told herself it was too late. Too many years. Too much distance. Too many lives lived apart. But that night, Helena dreamed of the alley behind the bakery. She dreamed of the smell of yeast and the feel of a boy's hand in hers. She woke at 3 o'clock in the morning, the same hour she had woken for 50 years of baking, and she knew what she had to do. She dictated a letter to her granddaughter. It said, "I am still here. I am still in the alley. I never left." The granddaughter mailed it. 2 weeks later, the phone rang. It was Marek's daughter, calling from Chicago. Her father had died the day before Helena's letter arrived. He had been holding it when he passed, unable to open it, unable to read it, but unwilling to let it go. Helena did not cry. She was 92 years old. She had outlived her husband, outlived most of her friends, outlived the bakery, outlived the alley. But she had not outlived the question. She said to Marek's daughter, "I loved him for 83 years. I never stopped. I never stopped." This is the fourth door of remembrance, recognizing that the people we have loved do not disappear when we stop looking at them. They continue. They age. They wait. They write letters from nursing homes in Chicago, hoping the address is still valid. And sometimes, if we are very lucky, we arrive before the letter does. The Buddha taught that our connections to other beings are not temporary arrangements. They are the very fabric of our consciousness. Every person you have ever loved, every person you have ever harmed, every person you have passed on the street without noticing, these are not separate from you. They are you, in other bodies, learning the same lessons, stumbling toward the same light. You do not need to find everyone you have ever wronged in this lifetime. You do not need to memorize the names of your enemies from 10 centuries ago. You only need to recognize that the person standing before you now, the one who irritates you without cause, the one who stirs ancient guilt in your chest, is not a stranger. They are a letter you never answered, arriving at last at the correct address. It is not too late. It is never too late. The alley is still there. The bakery is gone, but the alley remains. And someone is waiting in it, hoping that this time, you will turn down the correct street. There is a fifth question, and it is the one that breaks the heart open. The first asked if you have been here before. The second asked where you put the map. The third asked how many times you have broken the same promise. The fourth asked who you have harmed. The fifth asks, who has harmed me, and am I still carrying their weight? This is the question we are trained to answer with armor. We say, I have forgiven. I have moved on. I do not think about it anymore. But the body knows. The body keeps a ledger that the mind cannot access. The body remembers the hand that struck it, the voice that mocked it, the door that closed in its face. And the body waits, not for revenge, but for recognition. The Buddha taught that holding on to resentment is like grasping a hot coal with the intention of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. This is not a moral judgment. It is a mechanical fact. Resentment is a weight you carry in your own boat. The person you resent is not on board. They are standing on the shore, watching you sink lower in the water, wondering why you do not simply set the coal down. But the Buddha also taught that setting the coal down is not an act of weakness. It is an act of profound strength. It requires you to admit that you have been carrying it, that you have grown accustomed to the weight, that the burned scar has become part of your identity. To release the coal is to release the self you built around the burning. This is why forgiveness is so difficult. It is not mercy for the other. It is euthanasia for the version of yourself that needed to be right. In the city of Dublin, in the year 1954, a girl named Siobhan was born to a man who had wanted a son. He did not say this directly. He said it in 1,000 small ways. He bought his daughter a football for her 6th birthday and looked disappointed when she did not know how to kick it. He took her to hurling matches and sighed when she flinched at the collision of the sticks. He introduced her as my Siobhan with a pause before her name, as if he were searching for a different word and settling for hers. Siobhan learned to be small. She learned to take up less space, to speak in a lower register, to laugh less loudly. She learned that her existence was a disappointment that could be mitigated but never corrected. She became a nurse, a profession her father dismissed as women's work, and she spent 30 years caring for dying men who called her by their daughters' names. When her father died, Siobhan did not cry. She stood at the graveside, dry-eyed and upright, and felt nothing except the vague relief of a long vigil ending. She assumed the story was over. But the voice remained. It was not a hallucination. It was not her father's ghost whispering from the afterlife. It was the voice she had internalized so completely that it had become her own. It said, "You are not enough. You are not what was wanted. You are the placeholder for the child who never arrived." Siobhan was 63 years old when she finally spoke back to the voice. She was alone in her kitchen, washing a teacup, when the voice said, "If you had been a son, everything would have been different." She did not plan her response. It simply emerged from a part of her she had long forgotten. "If I had been a son, I would not have been me. And I am not sorry to be me." The teacup shattered in the sink. Siobhan looked down at the pieces in her hands. She was crying. She had not cried at her father's funeral, had not cried at her mother's funeral, had not cried when her marriage ended or when her daughter moved to Australia. But she cried now, standing over broken china, because she had finally said the sentence she had been practicing since she was 6 years old. She did not forgive her father. That came later, and it came slowly, the way ice thaws on a February river. She simply stopped waiting for him to apologize. She stopped waiting for him to become the father she deserved. She accepted that he had been a limited man, capable of limited love, and that her value was not determined by the limitations of his vision. The voice did not disappear entirely. But it changed. It became quieter. It became older, friendlier. It became the voice of a disappointed man who had never learned to see clearly. And Siobhan, listening to it now, felt something she had never expected to feel for her father: pity. She visited his grave for the first time in 5 years. She did not speak. She simply stood there, a 63-year-old woman who had spent her life caring for strangers, and she laid her hand on the cold stone. "I release you," she thought. "I release you from the obligation of having been what I needed. I release myself from the obligation of remaining wounded. The coal is cold now. I am putting it down." She walked away from the grave. Behind her, the stone remained. But the weight she had been carrying since 1954 finally settled into the earth, and Siobhan walked lighter than she had walked since she was 6 years old. This is the 5th door of remembrance, recognizing that the people who harmed you were also once children, also once disappointed, also once carrying coals that were pressed into their hands by the generations before them. This is not an excuse for their cruelty. It is a map of the fire. You do not forgive because the other person deserves forgiveness. You forgive because you deserve peace. You set down the coal not because it has stopped burning, but because your hand has better things to do than hold fire forever. The Buddha taught that holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. You have been drinking that poison for years, decades, lifetimes. The taste is so familiar you no longer notice it. But your body notices. Your sleep notices. Your relationships notice. Today, you can put the cup down. Today, you can turn your palm upward and let the coal fall. Today, you can say to the voice that has haunted you, "I hear you. I see you. And I am choosing not to carry you into my next life." The weight you release does not go back to the one who harmed you. It goes nowhere. It simply ceases to exist, the way the river ceases to exist when it reaches the sea. Not destroyed. Transformed. You were never meant to be a vessel for hot coals. You were meant to be a vessel for light. And it is not too late to become what you were always meant to be. There is a sixth question, and it arrives not in the mind but in the bones. The first asked if you have been here before. The second asked where you put the map. The third asked how many times you have broken the same promise. The fourth asked who you have harmed. The fifth asked who has harmed you. The sixth asks, what gift have I buried, and why will I not dig it up? This is the question of unclaimed inheritance. Every human being arrives with a talent they did not earn, a pull toward a craft they never studied, a fluency in a language they never learned. These are not coincidences. They are the tools you sharpened in previous lives, wrapped in cloth, buried in the yard, and then forgot to exhume. The Buddha taught that the path to awakening is not about acquiring new skills. It is about remembering old ones. You do not need to become compassionate, you have been compassionate across 10,000 lifetimes. You simply need to stop pretending you are not. You do not need to learn patience, patience is the native language of your eternal self. You have merely forgotten how to speak it. But the buried gift frightens you. To claim it is to accept responsibility for it. To pick up the tool is to agree to use it. And you are not sure you are ready to be that skilled, that visible, that necessary. So you leave the gift in the ground. You walk past the disturbed earth every day and pretend you do not see the corner of the cloth peeking through the soil. The gift waits. It is patient. It has waited through other lives, other bodies, other excuses. It will wait for this one too. But it grows heavier with each refusal. The unclaimed inheritance becomes a debt. The tool you do not use rusts. And the rust spreads. In the city of Vienna, in the year 1971, a boy named Lucas was born with perfect hearing and perfect silence. He could hear a pin drop in the next room. He could identify the pitch of a passing tram. But Lucas did not speak. He did not hum. He did not tap his fingers on tabletops in imitation of rhythm. He listened to the world with exquisite precision and offered nothing in return. His parents took him to specialists. They tested his hearing, his vocal cords, his cognitive function. The doctors found nothing wrong. The boy could speak, he chose not to. They labeled him selectively mute and sent him home with pamphlets about childhood anxiety. Lucas's mother was a pianist. Every afternoon, she sat at the upright in the living room and practiced Chopin. Lucas would sit under the piano, his back against the curved wall of the soundboard, his eyes closed. He never asked her to play. He never commented on her playing. He simply sat, absorbing vibration through his spine, his small body a receiver for frequencies he could not name. When Lucas was 12, his mother died. The piano fell silent. Lucas sat in the living room, on the bench where his mother had sat, and placed his hands on the keys. He had never touched the piano before. He had never learned to read music. His mother had offered to teach him countless times, and each time, Lucas had refused. He pressed a key. Middle C. Then E. Then G. His fingers moved without instruction, without hesitation, as if they were remembering something his mind had never been told. He played the nocturne his mother had been practicing the week she died. He played it perfectly, from memory, without a single mistake. His father stood in the doorway, unable to speak. When the piece ended, Lucas turned on the bench and looked at his father. "I was afraid," he said. His first words in 12 years. "If I played, she would not have needed to teach me. And if she did not need to teach me, she would not have sat beside me. And if she did not sit beside me, I would not have felt her breathing." The gift had not been buried in hatred. It had been buried in love. Lucas had refused his inheritance not because he despised it, but because accepting it would have meant accepting the loss of his mother's proximity. To become the pianist was to no longer need the teacher. And he was not ready to stop needing her. He was 12 years old. He had 12 years of silence to account for. But his fingers, at least, had never been silent. They had been practicing, invisibly, ceaselessly, every afternoon under the piano. They had been memorizing the geography of the keys through the vibration of the soundboard. They had been waiting for permission to speak. Lucas became a pianist. He did not become famous. He did not tour the world. He played in small cafes, in churches, in the living rooms of friends. He played the nocturne his mother had played. He played it the way she had taught him, even though she never taught him, even though he refused to be taught. He played it, finally, because the gift was too heavy to keep buried. Because the cloth had rotted. Because the soil had shifted. Because the tool in the ground was not a tool at all. It was a voice. And it had been screaming silently for 12 years to be released. This is the sixth door of remembrance. Recognizing that your refusals are not rejections of the gift. They are negotiations with the grief that accompanies it. Every talent is a legacy. Every skill is an inheritance from someone who came before. To claim it is to admit that they are gone. To use it is to admit that you remain. But the Buddha taught that the dead are not gone. They are continued. Your mother's breathing did not cease when her chest stopped rising. It continued in the vibration of the piano strings. It continued in the space between middle C and E. It continued in the silence you maintained for 12 years, waiting for the right moment to break it. You have buried something. Everyone has buried something. A voice. A touch. A way of moving through the world that felt too extravagant to claim. The ground above it is disturbed. You walk past it every day. The gift does not demand that you become famous. It does not demand that you monetize it, display it, perform it for strangers. It demands only that you stop pretending it is not yours. It demands that you pick it up, turn it over in your hands, and say, "I remember who gave me this. I remember who I was when I received it. I am ready now to become that person again." The cloth is rotting. The soil is shifting. The tool in the ground is not a tool. It is a voice. And it has been screaming silently for you to release it. There is a seventh question, and it is the one you have been avoiding since you first wondered if you had lived before. The first asked if you have been here before. The second asked where you put the map. The third asked how many times you have broken the same promise. The fourth asked who you have harmed. The fifth asked who has harmed you. The sixth asked what gift you have buried. The seventh asks, if I have lived all these lives, what am I still trying to learn? This is the question that silences the mind. Because if you have been a king and a beggar, a soldier and a pacifist, a mother and a child, a murderer and a saint, if you have worn every costume, spoken every language, loved and lost and loved again across 10,000 incarnations, then what remains unfinished? What lesson could possibly require so many repetitions? The Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree and answered this question. He said, I have searched for the builder of this house through countless births. Not finding the builder, I built and rebuilt, again and again. But now I have seen you, builder. You shall not build this house again. He was not speaking about a physical house. He was speaking about the architecture of the self, the walls we construct to separate ourselves from others, the roof we raise to protect ourselves from vulnerability, the foundation we pour to anchor ourselves in the illusion of permanence. He had built this house across 10,000 lifetimes, each time believing that this version would finally be secure, finally be worthy, finally be real. And each time, the house crumbled. Each time, he rebuilt. The night of his enlightenment, he stopped building. He did not destroy the house. He simply stopped believing it was necessary. He walked out the door and did not look back. And in that moment, he was free. Not from life, but from the exhausting labor of constructing a self that needed constant defense. You have been building your whole life. You have been building across many lives. You have constructed identities, reputations, defenses, dreams. You have built houses out of achievement, out of relationship, out of belief, out of fear. And each house has eventually let in the rain. Each house has eventually collapsed. Each house has left you standing in the rubble, wondering what you did wrong. You did nothing wrong. You simply forgot that you are not the house. You are the one who walks through it. In the mountains of northern Japan, in a village so small it did not appear on most maps, there lived a carpenter named Hiroshi. He was 87 years old. He had been building houses since he was 15. His hands were a map of his profession. Calluses on every finger, a scar across his left palm where a chisel had slipped in 1953, his right thumb permanently crooked from decades of gripping hammers. Hiroshi had built over 400 houses. He had built them for farmers and teachers, for shopkeepers and monks. He had built them in the old style, with mortise and tenon joints, without nails, without glue. He had built them to withstand earthquakes, to settle gracefully into the landscape, to outlast their original owners. But Hiroshi had never built a house for himself. He lived in a small room behind his workshop. He owned one futon, one kettle, one set of chisels. His wife had died 40 years ago. His children had moved to Tokyo. He had no desire for a larger dwelling, no need for the kind of house he spent his life constructing for others. A young apprentice asked him once, "Master, why do you not build your own house? You have built for everyone else. Surely you deserve the same quality of shelter." Hiroshi looked at his hands. He looked at the crooked thumb, the scarred palm, the fingers that had shaped 400 front doors. He said, "I have spent my whole life building shelters for others. But I have never needed shelter from anything except the rain. And the rain has never asked me to build it a house. The apprentice did not understand. He was 22 years old. He believed that houses were the point. He believed that a life was measured in structures completed, in roofs raised, in families sheltered. He had not yet learned that the carpenter is not the house. The carpenter is the hands that move through the wood, the breath that steadies the chisel, the eye that finds the grain. Hiroshi died that winter, sitting upright in his meditation posture, his hands resting on his thighs. He had not built his own house. He had not needed to. He had finally understood that he was not the carpenter who builds. He was the wood that is never exhausted, the grain that runs through all things, the silence after the hammer stops falling. This is the seventh door of remembrance, recognizing that you are not the sum of your constructions. You are not your career, your relationships, your accomplishments, your failures. You are not the house you have spent so many lifetimes building and rebuilding. You are the open doorway through which all houses pass. The Buddha taught that the end of suffering is not the end of life. It is the end of building. It is the end of believing that the next house will finally be waterproof, finally be permanent, finally be worthy of your occupancy. It is the end of mistaking the shelter for the self. You have lived before. You will live again. Not because you are trapped in an endless cycle of construction, but because life itself is endless and you are life itself. The builder has been exposed. The tools have been laid down. The house has become optional. You do not need to build one more wall. You do not need to raise one more roof. You do not need to earn one more nail. You only need to recognize what you have always been, not the carpenter, not the house, but the space inside where the rain cannot reach. That space has never been built. It has never been damaged. It has never needed repair. It has simply been waiting for you to stop building long enough to notice it was already there. Welcome to Monk's Temple. You came here with questions about past lives. You leave with something more valuable, the recognition that you have always been here, always will be here, and that the only life you need to save is the one you are living right now. The path is open. The door is unlatched. The builder has retired. Walk through.